Good morning. It's August 16th, Thursday, Parshas Rei. August 16th, I think I said that already. Been away for a few days. I'm still not feeling 100%. But all the people sitting here, they all begged me to give the shiur, so I have to give it.
That's it.
We're still holding in the halachas of Krishma. And basically today we're going to talk about the rules when you say Krishma. Krishma is such an important prayer that we have to be careful that we pronounce every letter and every word correctly. And unlike anywhere else in davening where you can daven, and it's not as critical that the words are exactly pronounced correctly, enunciated correctly rather. Here it's very, very important. So, first of all, when we say Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. So when we say that word Echad, we have to think about Hashem. When the Chet from Echad, we have to have in mind that Hashem is the God on top and on the bottom, on the Shemayim and the Oretz, and the Daled, which is 4, we have to have in mind that Hashem rules over the 4 corners of the world, the 4 sides of the world.
What chet you said?
The chet, we have to have in mind the heavens and the earth.
What kind of connection you?
He gives a connection. I don't quite understand it. And actually he gives you a time period, how long you should spend on the chet and how long you should spend on the daled. And it's amazing how he goes into, the Mishnah Berurah goes into like almost a calculation on how much time on each, but I think the rule is that you should just spend as much time as you can have that thought that Hashem is in the heavens and the earth, and the same with the Dalet in the 4 corners, and not more. You shouldn't spend too much time. Certain people, you hear them say, Echad, it's not exactly correct, according to the Mishnah Berurah. Also, of course, we don't repeat prayers, especially a bracha. If we're davening, we don't repeat. I'm very disenchanted when we have a Bal Tefillah here who repeats the prayers, especially in the middle of a bracha. But certainly, you cannot, under any circumstances, repeat Shema Yisrael. You can't even repeat the word Shema. So, if you just want to emphasize it by saying Shema Yisrael, that's very bad.
You show that there's 2 gods.
There's 2 gods, right. Okay. We know after Shema we say Baruch Shem Kavod Nachus Elolam Vod. We explained that was what Yaakov Avinu answered to his children. His children reassured Yaakov Avinu that there is nothing wrong with them. So they said Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. I don't know, Ben, if you were here for that shiur. Were you?
No.
Okay, what happened was that Yaakov Avinu called in all his children. He wanted to tell them when the end of time was. He wanted to tell them Mashiach Sofa Yomim. So the Shekhinah, the divine presence, left him. So he was very concerned. He thought maybe one of my children are not worthy for me to have the Shekhinah. So they reassured him, and the children said Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. They, without indicating to their father that they were worthy children, and Yaakov Avinu answered to that, Baruch Shem Kavod Malchus Olam Vod, and we say it quietly, as we said yesterday or the day before, because It's not something that Moshe Rabbeinu or Hashem told Moshe Rabbeinu to write in the Sefer Torah. In the Torah, it was something that Yaakov Avinu said. So we say it lower out of respect for Moshe Rabbeinu. But after we finish that pasuk, Baruch Shem Kvod Mechis Olam Vod, we have to pause a little bit. We can't run right into Vahafte, because
Shema is Midoraita.
Right, that's right. Because the Shema Yisrael is Kabbalah's Ol Malchus Shemaim. It's accepting the yoke of God and accepting of the as God as the King of the world. And the other thing is of course important also, but we have to have a distinction between the two of them. Now let's look at the words. The halacha is that you have to be very careful. And if you say two words, certain words, if we say two words close together, they don't come out right. So, certain Siddurim, I'm not sure if the Sephardi Siddur has it or not, certain Siddurim have a line separating between two words. Let's look at the word Asher Anochi. Look in the Siddur over here. Go on page 92. Go on page 92 so you're on the same page as I am. Okay. And when I'll take a sip of my coffee. Lynn, I'd offer you some, but it's hazelnut.
92.
Okay, so look at the second line, Asher Anochi. You see there's a line between the Reish and the Ayin. Otherwise, it's Asher Anochi, like you're almost connecting. Now the same, when you go to the words, the next line, Al Levavecha, there are two lamas over there.
Yeah.
You don't make it sound like one lamed. Al Levavecha. Yeah, it's Al Levavecha. So you have to pronounce it carefully. Okay. Also, another rule is that when you say Asher Anochi Mitzavcho Hayom Al Levavecha, so the halacha is that you have to stop after the word Hayom and then Al Levavecha, not because they run into each other, not because it'll be mispronounced, but otherwise it makes it look like that we're saying Asher Noch Mitzavcho Hayom Al Levavecha. Only today it's on your heart. So it shouldn't be just today, it should be forever.
Every day.
So we stop. We say Asher Noch Mitzavcho Hayom. I'm instructing you today, but it should last a lifetime. It should be Al Levavecha.
Here put it like a star, not line.
Right.
I don't know why.
Now the most famous one that and so on and so forth. If you go through the whole Krishma, all three parshas, you'll see that certain words there are lines that, and you have to pause because otherwise you may lead to mispronounce them.
That's correct.
Now the most famous one of mispronunciation that everybody knows about, if you turn to the next page, in the middle of the Tzitzit parsha, it says Leman Tizkaru Vasisim. If you say it quickly, it sounds like Leman Tizkaru. You almost have to be extremely conscious to pronounce it as a Zayin and not like a Saf or a Samach, because Leman Tizkaru is first of all, if it's a sin, it means Tizkaru means you should lie. That's not what it means, obviously. Or it means you should get drunk, if it's a shin. So we have to be careful that it means Leman Tizkaru, so that you should remember. So
Tikrun, that means to cut off.
What?
If you don't pronounce Zion, then Tikru.
Yeah, if you left it out altogether, it would completely be a different word.
Yeah, right.
Now, I once commented this. I was at a 50th reunion, a remembrance of the Holocaust, and it happened to be the parsha where we learned this. If you notice in this parsha of Tzitzit, there are three things that we're required to do. If you look, it says, Uri'isem also, Uzachartem, it comes Vasisem. You should see, you should remember, and you should do. So I said that this applies. I was at the 50th reunion, and there were 3 generations there of people. The first generation were actually people who were at the Holocaust. And then, of course, there was the second generation, the children. And then there were the grandchildren. So, and with everything else in our religion, that we look to our parents and grandparents and we try to emulate them, to try to do the mitzvahs like they do. So this is the 3 generations. The first generation actually erisem, they saw what happened. They don't have to remember it. They don't have to do anything. They were there. They unfortunately saw it in front of their eyes, the atrocities. Then comes the next generation. They didn't see it, but they remember Zachartim. They remember their parents telling them what happened, and if they invoke in themselves that memory of what their parents told them, that will motivate them to go, do the mitzvahs and to have emunah in Hashem. And then the third generations, they didn't see it, they didn't hear it from the grandparents. Unfortunately, sometimes they don't survive. The grandparents don't survive, so they just have to do it. Because if they're not going to do it, then it won't continue, and they have to continue following the.
Where they have every year.
Well, everybody, this happened to be my uncle, whose Yortzeit is coming up. He every year made a Suda for Holocaust survivors, and at the 50th,
He
himself is, and
he's alive.
He's not alive. He passed away a few months after my father passed away, and he was a fantastic person, a very lovable man. I can honestly say I never met anyone throughout my life that didn't feel the same way about him. He was just an unbelievable person. He worked for me over here in Atlantic City. He worked with me and eventually went on his business on his own and was quite successful. And he has wonderful children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren. And he would make this...
Your father's brother?
My father's brother. My father also went through the Holocaust. But my uncle actually was a little boy at the time. How he survived is a miracle, and he made a Suda every year to thank Hashem for this. Okay. Now, what time is it?
You have time. 7 minutes.
Okay. Now, if you look at the Krishma again, it has the ta'amim, the notes, because it's from the Torah. So some people like to read it with the ta'amim.
Sephardim they do.
Sephardim they do. I think it's a beautiful thing. You don't have to. These days, most people don't, but it's a beautiful thing to do. And if you follow the ta'amim, you will get a much greater appreciation for the words and how to connect the words. With anything else, if you know how to, if you know the either the understanding of the word, the perish hamilot, which is very important, and if you're davening, of course.
Let me ask you, the Chazanut in Ashkenazi, I see they read the first line, they read them quietly, then.
Yeah, right.
But by us it's different, we don't...
Yeah, what Benny is saying is that the Chazan Shlich Tzibur, by Ashkenazim, we start off the paragraph and we end off the paragraph. The rest of the time, the Chazan says it quietly. By the Sfardim, they read everything out loud, which I think is a beautiful thing also.
I think so too, because what's Chazanut, what's Shaliach Tzibur,
right.
For those that they cannot read or they cannot, so they have to hear it. So
right.
When they mean where or why this minha came to?
I'm not sure. The whole idea of having a shlich tzibur is there were people who didn't know how to daven, or they didn't have enough sidurim.
Right.
So they would need a shlich tzibur. Today, fortunately, we have plenty of sidurim. There's not even enough room in the shelves over here. And also, most people know how to daven, so we still continue, obviously, with the minhag of having a shlich tzibur. But we don't need him necessarily to recite for us word by word. But it's a beautiful thing, and I encourage anybody who has never been to a Sfard shul, when they daven, they should go, because it's really a beautiful thing. I remember about 7 or 8 years ago, I was in Mexico. I went there for vacation with my daughter, and I didn't know what went to Acapulco, and I packed up. Actually, my future wife packed me up with all kinds of foods because I didn't know if I would find kosher there. And I checked into the hotel.
Pesach time, they have a kosher.
It wasn't Pesach time. Mm-hmm. It was like the holiday time, Xmas, New Year's. And I walked into the hotel, and I see somebody with a yarmulke. I was very shocked that in the Hyatt, Acapulco, I'm going to see a guy with a yarmulke. And then I look around and I see more yarmulkes. And then I find out that for 3 months of the year, the Sephardim take the whole hotel and make it kosher. They had amazing restaurants. But the most amazing thing of the whole thing was that when I went to shul, especially on Shabbos, to see these Sephardim davening, I mean, it was inspiring. It really was a beautiful thing. And, afterwards they went out, even on Shabbat, and they did all kinds of things which may not have been acceptable to me. But still, when they talking to Hashem, and davening to Hashem, this was very important to them. And they meant it, it was serious. It wasn't a game with them. And it was a beautiful thing.
Let's say in Iran, they do all kind of things, but, they're Orthodox. They don't call them Reform or Conservative.
Right, of course. I remember I was in the middle of davening, and I turned around to say something to my husband-in-law, and somebody came over to me and looked at me like I'm crazy. He goes, shh, davening. Like, I was going to say, I said one word, Anyway.
In Iran also, let's say if people come to shul, they take out their shoes, they respect the synagogue. Even though later on they might go play cards or they go
right. There's a certain amount of respect that you have to have for the shul, and that's why I'm very, very careful that not to come late. I mean, this is a shul. How do you come late? You wouldn't come late to a movie. You wouldn't come late if the President of the United States was talking. Even this one, you wouldn't walk in the middle. You'd be embarrassed. How can you walk in? There's somebody talking. How can you walk in late? Hashem is here. It's wild. People just don't get it. I don't know. Lynn, can you help me in this? Anyway, now.
We have 2 more minutes.
2 more minutes. I just want to say that it's important that we concentrate on what we're saying in Krishma. But if you said it and you didn't concentrate, here you don't have to repeat it. We'll get into it later, or maybe we got into it already, that if you daven Shemoneh Esrei in the first 3 brachas, you did not have kavanah, you weren't careful, understand? You have to start from the beginning. You have to start Shemoneh Esrei again, by the first 3 brachas. If your mind wasn't there, you were just saying it out of rote, and you weren't concentrating what you're saying, that Baruch Atah Hashem, bless God.
You should finish it, come back again? Or
No, right wherever you're holding stuff in the beginning, That only applies to the first 3 brachas. But here in Krishma, if you were not so careful, you said it, but you weren't so careful, you don't have to repeat it.
What about, let's say you forgot that you said it or not?
Last 2 chances.
Me,
Mendy, you
Mendy.
Maybe there's another chiyuv here. Anybody want to daven?
I asked for volunteers, I asked for you.
If you give me Benny, I'll go till Yishtabach. You take over.
No. You.
I'll take over at Yishtabach. Go ahead. I just want to finish this. That here's something very surprising. That can you say Krishma in English, or does it have to be in Hebrew? What do you think?
If you don't understand the meaning, maybe possibility.
Yes. If you don't understand what you're saying in Hebrew, then say it in English.
What about Shemoneh Esrei?
Shemoneh Esrei
as the bracha.
Also, I think. I'm not sure. I'll look that up. But certainly, Krishma, you should say it in the language that you understand.
Let me ask another question. Let's say you don't understand the meaning of making bracha on the coffee.
Yeah.
It's better to say in Hebrew or better to say in English?
In English, I think.
It's a bracha, real?
I think so, but I'll check it out.
You say amen after that?
Okay. Yes. Okay, we'll finish this. There's still some more to say on Krishna. Okay. Thank you. Okay, bye-bye.